With the introduction of Sumeru, we got two gods of wisdom, the Lesser Lord Kusanali and Greater Lord Rukkhitavata. But there's another god of wisdom, a god whose wisdom cursed a civilization and brought the withering upon them, the Scarlet King. In the 3.1 update, we got a cutscene about the Scarlet King and Rukkhitavata's backstory. I'll give a quick recap. According to legends, the Scarlet King was the son of the sky, which was why he received fervent worship from the desert tribes. He was friends with Greater Lord Rukkhitavata and the Goddess of Flower. He and the Goddess of Flower joined forces and built the ancient kingdom. I have no idea how to pronounce this word, which means the city of Moon Maiden in the ancient language of Jinn. The Scarlet King, or AlHaitham, was in love with the Goddess of Flower, and she was aware of his affection. After the Goddess of Flower died, the Scarlet King mourned her deeply and eventually went mad in his desire to create a utopia for their people. Greater Lord Rukkhitavata eventually decided to leave and create an oasis in the corner of the desert and built a thriving rainforest. The Scarlet King created his utopia, free of worries, schemes, and slavery, based on what the Goddess of Flower had taught him. In his madness, the Scarlet King would eventually unleash forbidden knowledge upon the world, which would quickly devastate his people and bring Elazar and the Withering into existence. Greater Lord Rukkhitavata, who had left the desert and created the forest by then, came to his rescue and had priests build temples with the power of life to mitigate the disaster. And the survivors of the Scarlet King civilization would continue to live in Aru village. Since the forbidden knowledge remained a threat, the Scarlet King chose to sacrifice his life. Even after thousands of years of the Scarlet King's death, there are desert tribes who still worship him, and as we saw in 3.0, a few of the Ermites were trying to bring him back. Upon closer inspection of the cutscene, we can see something that appears to be the eye of the Scarlet King. This is very similar to the eye of an in-game character, AlHaitham, from the colors to the patterns. Alongside AlHaitham's eye, the dark blue in his outfit is also very similar to the Scarlet King's iris. I know we can't conclude a theory with just colors of his dress, but colors are not the only thing driving this theory. AlHaitham himself has a lot of references to birds, as his name means young eagle. Throughout his design, there are several bird motifs too, from the feathers to his cape, and the motive I want to specifically point out is his cape collar. If you look towards the left side of his cape collar, you can see something that looks like an eye, and since this is located on the left side, it could be a reference to the Eye of Horus. Horus is a very prominent figure in Egyptian mythology. Even in-game, he has statues alongside Anubis and Sobek. Since the Scarlet King is based on mythological figures, AlHaitham being a reference to Horus is possible. And when AlHaitham, the Scarlet King, sacrificed himself, he left behind a single gemstone. AlHaitham has a similar gemstone etched on his chest. AlHaitham is also very focused on researching divine knowledge capsules. It is very likely that much of the information contained within the divine knowledge capsule is considered forbidden, and forbidden knowledge is what led to the Scarlet King's demise. AlHaitham could be a vessel for the Scarlet King, an empty shell, trying to regain the knowledge the Scarlet King once possessed. Him being an empty shell of the Scarlet King could also explain why the Akasha terminal seemed to go crazy when it tried focusing on him. This could also explain his unique ideals regarding gods. Most people in Teyvat respect or worship some god or another, while AlHaitham doesn't respect nor disrespect the gods. There's an item in-game known as Tales of the Desert. It is a blueprint for the sapwood blade, and in the description of the blueprint, it says, through this tale you can master the methods to make the sword sapwood blade. This is a tale about a friend lost in the desert. This is a story from Valuka. Now, keep this name in mind, it is important later on. To continue this theory, I have to talk a little about Honkai Impact. Since I've never played the game, almost all of the information here are either information that I got from the Honkai Wiki or information I sourced from other YouTube videos. So there's a character in Honkai Impact called Su, and in the Wiki it says that he used to be a part of Project Valuka. The Wiki states that Su is around 50,000 years old, and that he later imprisoned himself in the seed of Sumeru. So did you notice a connection between these two? In the description of the blueprint, it says that it's a story from Valuka, and the Honkai Wiki says that Su used to be a part of Project Valuka. The Wiki also states that Su later imprisoned himself in the seed of Sumeru. All of this seems way too connected to be a coincidence. Another interesting thing in the Honkai Wiki is about Honkai radiation. It's also known as Honkai sickness, and it is very fatal with a 100% mortality rate, which only has one cure. However, this cure is very expensive and requires the antibodies from thousands of people to cure one person. So far, the only people who received it are Su and his mentor. Honkai radiation is caused by continuous exposure to Honkai, or if someone comes in contact with Honkai beasts, and the symptoms are infectious pattern, infection of organ system, fatigue, and much more. Now, the symptoms of this disease are very much like Elazar, a disease in Genshin. And the symptoms of Elazar are dark hardened scales growing on a person's body, nerve damage, clumsiness, and fatigue. The symptoms that Honkai sickness and Elazar have are very similar, and it's not only the symptoms, the way they are caused are also quite similar. Honkai sickness is caused when someone comes into contact with a Honkai beast or Honkai, while Elazar is considered to be the manifestation of the withering on the human body. Now, the things I'm going to say next might be completely wrong and might not make much sense at all, but just bear with me. When we consider the fact that in the Honkai universe, Su was one of the only person who received a cure for this disease, and the fact that he imprisoned himself in the seed of Sumeru later, it is very much likely that Su, when he imprisoned himself in the seed of Sumeru, entered the world of Genshin somehow, and found himself in the desert. He is a Scarlet King, and the reason that Elazar and the Withering exists in Genshin is because he released his knowledge into the world. Now, the next thing I'm going to say might be stepping into leaks territory, so if you don't want to hear those, skip to the timestamp on screen right now. So recently there was a leak that said that a Su XP will be coming as a playable character in Genshin, and the fact that Su's character design is very similar to AlHaitham. And if the theory about Su being the Scarlet King is true, then AlHaitham being the vessel for the Scarlet King might also be true. So AlHaitham as an empty shell for the Scarlet King might be trying to regain the knowledge the Scarlet King once possessed, maybe in hopes to try and rid the world of the Withering. Now, time to conclude this for the people who skipped. Since Su imprisoned himself in the seed of Sumeru, it's very much likely that he was the Scarlet King, and Elazar and the Withering came into existence because he released the forbidden knowledge which he had. And if the theory about Su being the Scarlet King is true, it's very likely that the theory about AlHaitham being the vessel for the Scarlet King might also be true. So AlHaitham as an empty shell for the Scarlet King might be trying to regain the knowledge the Scarlet King once possessed, maybe in hopes to try and rid the world of the Withering.